Hey, Mike,
Howdy,
how are you?
I'm doing as good as I can do.
That's about the same in my end. Yeah. Hey, Willie. Bill
Hey,
Harlan.
big guy.
Nice picture you got back there
Hi,
behind you.
Lou.
Hey, how y'all doing? Good to see you.
Doing well.
Good.
We'll wait a minute or two to see who else joins here. I've gotten a couple of narrative replies with memories of Bill that I will, when we're done here, I'll read it into the recording that I prepare for Martha. And
Will you have a copy for us as well?
oh yeah, anybody, yeah, I will post a file that everybody can look at. Yeah, absolutely. Or if you want me to burn it to a DVD, I can do that too. However you want it.
Everything back online, Chuck?
Yeah, it took a while, but everything power came up, and then right after the power came up, the internet and the TV went down. That was another day, and I lost a number of trees on the property, a couple of good-sized cherry trees and a walnut tree, and
Wow.
so I've taken my time getting those cut up.
I bet.
I'm too old to be doing that shit. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. Well, I am limited with my free Zoom account to 40 minutes. So another minute or two, we'll just, if the four of us are all that are on, that's what we'll stick with. The four of us will share memories of Bob. And like I said, I'll read in those narrative responses I've gotten. And I asked people if they could to record themselves with their memory. I haven't received any of those. So we'll give them another week after this to provide stuff, and then I'll put something together.
Appreciate you doing that, Chuck.
Well, it was you're the one that reached out to Martha, and I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Yeah. And I guess I can understand her not particularly wanting to participate herself. I can understand. Might be a little emotionally draining to listen to that.
Mike, how did she seem other than that? I mean,
She seemed very depressed. He wasn't. He had a hard time accepting, even though in death like this with Bob, it was known. It was just slowly progressive. It's just still hard to sometimes waking up next to somebody who's not breathing.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Good point. Oh well. So he passed in his sleep, Mike?
I'm sorry.
He passed away in his sleep?
I'm not sure. I didn't get the details on it.
Yeah.
I let them just talk when we talked.
Did you speak with the children at all?
One of the sons, I think it's the oldest son, chatted with briefly, uh, just to let him know what we were here to do to support him in any way we could.
Lou, you gave up the real tobacco. Is that right?
Not totally, but mostly.
Okay.
Not
I
totally.
saw you vaping there. I'm glad
Yeah.
to see that. Yeah.
Well, I can't smoke cigarettes in the apartment anyway, so I had to do something.
Okay.
Any change is good change, though.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Well, I'm recording now, so choose your words carefully. And Mike, why don't we start with you with your best favorite, most memorable recollection of Bob Ludwig?
Well, Bob and I were roommates on a couple of details. And the one that was the most unique and I guess interesting was when we were juniors. I'll not use cow since we're talking to folks that don't know our vernacular. But before the start of one of the quarters or semesters, Kim Ray came and talked to Bob and I, because we had a classmate that was not doing so well in his classes that quarter, Mr. Bill Miller. And they asked if Bob and I would room with Bill and see if we couldn't help get his juice grades up, his electrical engineering, I should say. We thought that we weren't really going to get much progress, but we'd do what we could. And at midterm, I think Bill's GPA came in at an astounding 1.3 or something like that. But Bob was a good teacher and he had patience. And as we went through the year, Bill's grades came up, and by the end of the semester, he was passing all of his classes. And I think a lot of that is a tribute to Bob and the time he spent working with Bill while we were roommates.
Yeah. Now, see, I have no memory of you and Bob helping Bill Miller out. I didn't even know that happened. Did you know that, Lou?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, neither did I. Yeah.
So
I don't think
I've been
it was
telling
something-
that story. I've been telling that story about Miller with Mike Beatty and I, and the twist on that was it was plebe year, and we had I think I roomed with Puck, and I don't remember who else. And then in the winter, Beatty and I and Miller, and we convinced the TAC or somebody like the tackle officer or maybe one of the firsties at the beginning of the third rotation that Beatty and I were the only people keeping Miller from flunking out. And they bought it. So they left us together one more year, one more detail.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mike went to I3. Mike Beatty went to I3 at that point.
Yeah.
And I guess what we did for Miller didn't, I mean, it was short lived. So you guys had to do about the same thing 2 years later.
Hey,
Yeah,
Mike,
I've got some pictures, but I couldn't find one to provide with Bill sitting in his DVDs, his underwear at his desk with his computer printouts that just strewn through the floor as he's trying to figure out what to do with it.
did you room with Bob more than one detail, Mike?
Yes, we were together during our sophomore years when we were in Old South. Bob and I were on the second floor with Brian Bonner was our roommate.
Yeah.
And I've got some stories there, but I think I won't share those.
Yeah, that's probably wise. Yeah, yeah. Good.
But Bob did what he could to kind of soothe over some hurt feelings in some of the people, Ryan. So
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
very good at being a peacemaker.
Was not Bob's family in the electronics or electrical engineering business, Mike?
Yeah, they had an electronics store, I believe it was in Tucson.
Okay.
Business before I'm not sure once he got out of the military.
Yeah. So his ability to help Bill in juice electronics, electrical engineering, he came by that almost not naturally, but he had some experience in that growing up in the family.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Good. Cool. Hey, Lou, what do you remember about Bobby Ludwig?
You know, I've been scratching my head. I don't have a lot of distinctive memories about Bob. You know, I remember him being a real good guy. Uh, Always seemed on the quiet side, but with our group, that wasn't. I mean, somebody had to stay in the background.
Yeah.
But you know, he always seemed. My recollections of Bob, he was always upbeat. He always seemed to be smiling. Didn't seem to get fazed by much. You know, just an all-around good guy, solid classmate.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Was he a star man?
No, he was right on the cusp of the where Bill and him were close on getting on the list. One quarter, next quarter might not make it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was pretty close. I knew he was smart as a whip. I knew that. Yeah.
He also, well, when he was uh, in Signal Corps, he ended up being a general's aide for a while.
I didn't
And,
realize that. I had no clue what he did after graduation. None. He just, like many of us,
mhm.
you go off into your military career and you lose track of him. And I lost track of Bob immediately. Yeah.
Well, I actually ended up being more involved with Bob after graduation. It was a few years after he got out. He met his wife Martha, and they had joined my church, the Mormon church, and so we got reacquainted, Bob and I, and spent a lot of time talking about old times.
So he was not a Mormon prior to joining your church?
No,
Oh. Huh.
uh,
I thought with the distinguished career he had with the church that he had been a Mormon since birth.
no, he sent me a wedding announcement that indicating he was getting married back somewhere after we all graduated, and I got to know him there. I stopped by on the way to San Diego for a medical education meeting, and we visited and got reacquainted. And I know Craig McKee probably was as much about keeping in touch as anybody,
Yeah.
knowing more what Bob was doing.
Yeah, Craig sent me a nice email that I'll read into the I think he sent it to everybody, perhaps. Yeah.
Right.
I'll make sure I read into this video. Yeah. Good. Willie, give me a recollection or two. Give us a recollection or two of Bob Ludwig.
I feel like Lou that he kind of stayed in the background, would help anybody that needed help. Came from the heart, but pretty quiet guy. And he wasn't out there at 2:00 in the morning messing around in the hallways like we were.
Yeah.
Often. We were probably keeping him from getting a good night's sleep or something.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was either a sophomore or junior year when we had our class picture taken. We tried to convince everybody to wear glasses. Do you remember
Right.
that?
Yeah.
I don't know. There were one or two people that didn't do it, and I can't remember if Bob Ludwig was one of those one or two or not. But
well, he had more sense than most of us, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
As I sit here looking at your face and the photo behind it, he's looking over your shoulder. Ludwig. His photo.
Yeah, hang on. And next to you, yeah.
And then I couldn't see me, but Ludwig's keeping an eye on you in this conversation.
Right. Yeah, he is. You're right about that. Yeah, I think I'll have to dig that picture out, but I think Bob might have been one of the 2 or 3 of us that did not wear glasses in that picture for fear of retribution from the tactical staff. But I don't recall anybody giving us any grief about that.
Yeah, well, that would be an odd disciplinary action to take. Yeah. Wore glasses unnecessarily or something like that. Or acted the fool or something.
Yeah,
Well, there,
my recollection is very similar to Lou's and Bill's. Bob was the kind of guy that you knew was going to make it through West Point. You knew he had leadership abilities, not because he was out front, rah on everything, but he commanded respect when he spoke to people. I mean,
Indeed.
that was my recollection. If he said something to you, you paid attention to what he said because you knew that it was coming from his heart, and it was likely an intelligent, well thought out statement that he was making. So he wasn't one just to give off the cuff jokes or just try to get a laugh like a lot of guys did. If he spoke, he was telling you something that he thought you ought to know, and you paid attention to it. That was I never roomed with Bob Ludwig. I wish I had. There were a lot of our classmates I never roomed with. Obviously, in 4 years, you don't have the opportunity to room with everybody. But I think that would have been I would have learned a lot had I roomed with him, and that's one regret I have with a lot of people, but Bob in particular, that I could have learned a lot from him, and I'm sad that I didn't.
well, I think I kind of ran the spectrum of roommates. I went from Bob Ludwig to Ralph Saracola to Paul Labonte.
Well, Ralph, I never roomed with Ralph either, and maybe that's one that I'm sort of glad I didn't room with. I don't know, but
Well, I think I had the pleasure, one detail, of rooming with Ralph and Brian in the same detail.
really,
Yeah.
Lou, you're a saint. You're a saint, man.
Well, when we first joined the company after Beast, I was in a bottom room in the New South, and the placard on the door said Maggiolino, Saracola, and Jones. And every time one of the upperclassmen needed something, they came in our room. Instead of calling the ones they couldn't pronounce, guess who always got the detail?
Jones.
I thought maybe you wondered if you'd join the Italian army there.
Yeah, Maggiolino and Saracola. Yeah. That's funny. That's funny. So, Mike, what you said, Bob was a signal corps officer. Is that what you said?
That's what his first detail was.
Yeah.
Then I think he went adjutant general once he started becoming an aide.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Did anybody ever run, other than you, Mike, did Lou or Bill, you ever run into Bob after graduation at any post anywhere?
No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't either. Yeah, I didn't either.
As far as
He
I
didn't.
know,
He didn't stay in active duty very long,
Right.
though he had the potential to go far.
Yeah.
But, I think his interests were otherwise.
Yeah. Do you know where he was posted, Mike? What forts he was posted at?
No, most of the time I got to know Bob was after we were both out of the
Yeah.
service.
Yeah. Through the church primarily.
Yes.
Did you ever run into it? Wasn't he posted? Tell me what his church assignments were. I remember writing to him once, I think in Indiana or Illinois.
Illinois, I think,
Nauvoo
from the
or
service.
Yeah, that's where I think he was a general's aide, but I didn't know him on active duty. Was when we were both I'd switched to the Air Force.
Right.
He'd gotten out and moved back to Tucson. And that's where we reconnected was while
Didn't he have a church posting in Illinois or Indiana?
yeah, he did. He first started out was given a ordained to be a bishop for a ward in our church, and was responsible for a parish. And he did that for a while. Then he ended up being deemed to be more responsible and was put in charge of 7 additional parishes. And normally you do that for 14 or 7 years, but he did it for 14.
Wow.
And then he was called on a mission to oversee the young missionaries, first in Denver, Colorado, and then he had a posting in Nauvoo, Illinois,
Nauvoo, that's it. Yeah.
where Nauvoo is where our church went from Ohio. Well, it actually started in New York
Hmm.
and then on through Ohio to Nauvoo, and eventually ended up in Salt Lake.
Now, is Nauvoo still a big Mormon community?
Not a big community, but is a very heavy Mormon presence there.
Yeah.
But they've got it more as a monument and a place to see what the country was like in the 1830s.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what Bob was the mission president for that section of the area in charge of the missionaries that were there.
Yeah.
He'd been on, I think, 3 separate missions. So
Hmm.
between his time as a ecclesiastical leader and then a manager of the missionaries, he's put in I don't know how he had the time to do all that he did.
Yeah. Well, Martha, as his wife, had some significant responsibilities too, didn't she?
Well, yeah, as a mission president's wife, she had a lot to do to help the missionaries when it was kind of like a foster mother for them the 2 years that they were out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had young children at the time as well. So they not only had a full-time church job, but they had a family to raise at the same
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Most of
So
the folks,
I've got the register. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished.
go ahead.
I've got the register of graduates, and the
Oh,
entry for Bob's says, born in Arizona, went in the Signal Corps, 9th Signal Battalion for 3 years. Doesn't say where that is, although the next entry is aide de camp to the ECOM CG at Fort Monmouth, 75 to 76, and then RTADS, 76 to 77. I'm not sure what RTADS is.
I
And
don't.
then left the service in 77
Hmm.
and went and got a master's in electrical engineering at Arizona State the following year after leaving the service. Went to work for Hughes Aircraft for like 3 years, and then became president of Ludwig Industrial Incorporated,
That was
81 to 95.
his family business, I think.
This is the 2015 book, so I guess he stopped writing them after 95 and didn't
Yeah.
update it.
Yeah.
But that's the whole entry of. There's
Yeah.
probably something
Yeah,
in here that explains those acronyms, but I don't know what they are.
That's what I remember is that he basically helped start a family business.
Yeah.
And then as he got further along, he picked up more responsibility in his ecclesiastical duties.
Yeah. I'm reasonably certain that Bob was not a core squad athlete, but does anybody know what intramural athletics he played? I don't.
I don't remember either.
I don't remember him being on any of my
Yeah.
teams or.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, I don't either.
I actually.
That could mean either my memory is shot, which is likely, or like Lou said, we just didn't participate in the same intramural teams. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I did intramural soccer and boat racing out at Lake Popel Open or whatever, out at Lake.
Canoe
Yeah,
racing.
Canoeing,
Yeah,
right, boat
you
racing.
and me were in that
Boat
same
racing.
canoe.
I hated that. I just hated that. Yeah.
You and me both, buddy. You and me both.
But I don't recall. And what was it? The 8-man football, intramural football. I don't think he was on that team, but
Not as juniors. I was on that team where we won the brigade championship.
Yeah.
You were there too.
Yeah. Gorzelnik, me, you, Bobby Brown. I'm trying to remember. There was quite a number.
Yeah. Nobles,
Yeah, George Noble, what was his name?
George Noble. Yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm going to read from his howitzer entry.
All right.
Robert Estes Ludwig, Tucson, Arizona, storming off his parched 40-acre homestead of cactus and sand, fighting Bob puritanically dismounted the Butterfield stage, declaring, "Sleep is unnecessary." Thusly did he study science and girls until all hours. Funny Company's academic workhorse of all time.
Yeah.
And it has WKDT for 4 years and Amateur Radio Club for 3 years.
Huh.
That's right.
He must have been an engineer. You
Yeah,
think?
he was.
I mean, an
That's where he
engineer on the
applied
radio
radio.
station.
He applied his skills learned there on WKDT.
Yeah.
But he also did ham radio. I remember that now.
Yeah. Huh. Well, good. That's interesting about him. Mike, do you know what his children are doing? He has what, 2 sons?
2 sons and 2 daughters, I think, from the
I believe
from
it
the
was
funeral
2 sons
service.
and 2 daughters. But
Yeah.
no, I haven't really spent time talking to Martha yet, letting her get
Yeah.
acclimatized to the new family order.
Well, what I may do is when I put this together, I'll send the DVD to you and you can forward it to her with a note to kind of let her know. Well, she knows what we're doing because you explained to her what we're going to do. But I'll let you transmit that to her because you have the greatest rapport with her. So
I'd
if you
be
don't
happy
mind,
to do that.
if you don't mind doing that.
No, I'm happy to do that. She knows me the best.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, Bob sent me a note, said, I remember that you used to take a lot of pictures. And he says, I want my family to know a little bit about what my life was like at West Point. And he says, if you have any pictures, could you send them to me? So I went back through all my slides. I haven't got everything digitized yet. It's probably going to take me another 100 years to do that. But,
Yeah.
well, there goes my brain again. It's going into neutral.
Now, you have actual physical slides.
Yes. Yeah, I got a converter digitizer. I just haven't spent enough time on it to get it all
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah, I bought one of those slide digitizers and it seemed to work all right. I haven't used it in a long time, but if you need any help digitizing them, I'm happy to try to help. So,
Oh, thanks.
yeah.
When I do get them digitized for the ones in our company, I'm going to send them to you so you can
Yeah, get them on
help
the web.
everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I've got some good ones of us out of Camp Buckner.
I have 0 slides from Buckner. I have one slide from us, about a half a dozen of us standing out in front of those old wooden barracks in our dress white. That's the only slide I have from Buckner. That's it.
Yeah, I've got some of those. I've also got the slide for life.
Oh, do you?
From Recondo
Oh, boy.
Week.
That'd be cool to see. Yeah.
So I sent those to Bob with a little note on each of them, and he wanted his family to kind of see what his West Point life was like. His
Mike,
family and ecclesiastical
how'd you
life
manage-
got after.
how'd you manage to carry a camera during Recondo Week?
I don't know.
I could hardly carry what we were supposed to carry.
Yeah. Well, I guess since Bob Brown took the M60, there was not. I had little to carry after that, so I always had a place in the pack for your camera.
So as far as anybody knows, Mike never visited West Point with his family after he got married.
Bob,
I don't think the way he talked when he asked for the pictures, it didn't sound like they had ever visited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I I don't remember him ever showing up at any of the reunions.
Right, right. But I thought maybe on one of his trips, if he ever visited the East Coast, he might have taken him by there. That's all. Yeah.
And I don't know if he had friends outside the company when we were at the point.
That's a
Other
good
than-
question. Did he have any close friends, Mike, you know, outside of E3?
Not that I remember when from our time rooming together, that there was any specific individuals that came over from other companies. Uh, but I think a lot of his interest was in electronics and the radio.
Yeah.
He may have spent, a lot of his time there.
Chuck, I remembered Gary Dennis, who was in G3,
Yeah.
was big in the radio station on the technical side or the engineering side.
Oh,
And I wonder if that's somebody that
would have a
has
recollection.
recollections of Bob Ludwig.
Oh, I've got everybody in the regiment's email address. I could send them a note and ask them. That's a good idea. Gary Dennis, huh? G3?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he was in G3.
I can look them up. Like I say, I got a roster of the entire regiment and their contact information, so I can look them up. Good.
I wonder if Mac had any interaction with him in the Signal Corps.
That's a good idea too. I haven't heard anything back from Mac about this meeting or whether he's going to send me anything about Bob, but that's a good idea. Write that down. Okay. Good. Well, I hope that like I said, I got 2 or 3 written inputs from classmates that I'll read into it. I hope to get a few more. Whatever I get, whether it's 4 of us plus 3 written inputs, if that's all we get, that's still, I think, good to send on to Martha and let her know that we do remember Bob and we remember him fondly.
Right. We remember him well. Right.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody that ever said anything bad about Bob, ever. Yeah. And who would? I mean, he was a great guy. He was a great guy.
I
Now,
know from
when I look at that
Right.
picture behind you, Chuck, I think of some guys that were sort of the foundation of our class and our company, and Bob was definitely one of those people.
Oh, yeah. No, you're
Yeah.
right. I agree 100%. Yeah. 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 Any last comments about Bob Ludwig? Where my time expires in 5:40, I think, 8 minutes. Any last
Do you
comments?
have the stuff? Do you have the stuff that you're going to read into the record handy so we can hear it?
No, I'd have to call up my email, and I didn't print it
Okay.
out. I could have, but
Well,
I
Greg sent his to everybody.
yeah, he did. Yeah,
Yeah,
That
we
was
got
the only
Craig.
one I remember seeing.
Bill Whiteman sent me one. Bill Miller sent me one.
Oh, good.
That's the only other 2 that I. Those are the 3 that I know I got. And I'll send a reminder out that we had the meeting and try to solicit some additional input. And like I said, whatever I get, I'll put together. I'm going to wait about a week to aggregate everything, and then I'll I may even put a little music introductory. I don't know what it would be, but I'm trying to think of. I'll think of
You know
something.
what he listened to, Mike?
What's that?
I was
No,
asking if you know
I
what
can't
Bob
re-
listened to.
I don't remember what it. We didn't have a specific station or music
Right.
on records that we listened to.
I might just pick a song from '72 and whatever was top of the charts in June of '72 and play that softly in the background. Maybe have his picture from the yearbook as an opening shot, and then go right into this video and reading the written entries at the end. And I'll dress it up a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll dress it up a little. Any last comments, Mike?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm sure that if Bob was here, he would, from his ecclesiastical duties, would say that he knows that Heavenly Father is our Father in heaven, and that Jesus died for our sins, and that he was resurrected, and he would
Yeah.
testify to the divinity of the Savior.
I'm sure he would. Well put. Bill Harlan, any last thoughts about Bob Ludwig?
No, I'll look for photos and such also if I can.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody has a photo of Bob, even if it's a group shot with him in the background. I mean, I've got all these class photos digitized, so I can put those in there too. Okay. Lou, any last thoughts or comments?
No, I mean, again, I think he was a rock solid guy. It's great to have him as a classmate and a company mate. And unfortunate his passing, but he definitely will be remembered fondly, no doubt about it.
Okay. Well, I will. Again, I'm sorry about the week delay we had on this. I'll put together I'll put together a general E3 video call where we can just catch up with each other sometime in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll spend time just telling lies about each other rather than telling the truth about Bob Ludwig. Yeah.
Hey, Chuck, with that, if you want to piggyback, I mean, we can piggyback so we'd have longer than 40 minutes. If you want to get one, and then I can get it.
I see. Yeah.
After that. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Well, I've got another video conference service that I don't have a time limit on, but people have experienced problems with it in the past, and I know Zoom seems to be pretty stable. That's why I use this. But that's a good idea to piggyback. That's good.
I still have access to Teams through my company, but I'm not sure if everybody has access to
Teams. I don't know either. That's why I didn't try that. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Okay. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and thank you for spending the time reminiscing about Bob Ludwig. And Mike Jones, thank you in particular for coordinating all this activity, particularly with Martha. Thank you.
I'm glad to do it. And unfortunately, we've lost one of the good guys.
Yeah, that's true. All right, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks for doing this, Chuck. Good to see you guys. Take care.
Good talking to everybody.
See you all as well.
Yep. See everybody.
Good night.
Good afternoon.
I forgot where you are. All right. Good afternoon. When you talk to Bob, you got a wonderful smile that came from the heart. And you had a feeling that he would absolutely help you in any way that he could without hesitation. Very giving, very gracious, and a good soul. I'm saddened to know that he has moved on from us. I can't make the Zoom meeting, but I do have a funny story from plebe year. We were at a special inspection in Steve Hume's room, and he was asking sports trivia questions. He asked Bob who Babe Ruth was, and Bob didn't know. Well, Steve went ballistic, and I could not believe Bob didn't know. Later, we all gave Bob some additional instruction on Babe Ruth, just as he gave us additional instruction in electrical engineering. Bob Ludwig as a cadet was an unassuming person and pleasant to be around. He was a hive, serious about studies and willing to help those in need of academic assistance. I can see him saying to a classmate in need, "Sure, I'll help you with that question," while saying to himself, "Sleep is overrated." I did not know Bob that well, and I regret that I did not come to know him well, particularly in light of what I heard from his family at the memorial service. I was very impressed when Bob's children shared about the humility and compassion of their dad. I heard them tell about a time when the family was moving to a new house, and all were cleaning the rooms in the house they were leaving to make it the best that it could be. Their dad made a point of cleaning the kitchen sink, the drain, the garbage disposal, getting rid of all the debris, the grease, the grime that had accumulated. Bob told his children that is what ought to be done out of consideration for the new tenants, to prepare them for a fresh, clean sink, free of grease, food debris, harmful germs, and foul odors. Even if they don't know that we did that for them, we will know. That is the love of a neighbor lived out for his family to see. Bob would also perform routine household chores, such as scrubbing the kitchen floor, as a way of taking that burden away from Martha. The kids witnessed him doing this frequently over the years, and even during the final days of his life, as he was struggling with the painful cancer treatments, Bob was a humble servant. As I reflect on memories from Bob's family, I am grateful that I knew him, even though it was not as well as I should have. I feel privileged to have even observed him from a distance over the 4 years. I think that in retrospect, his character formation took him to the point in life of being an example by showing consideration for others, including those he has not even met. Bob Ludwig has had an impact on the world by making it a better place and pointing the way with a life well lived. May it be said, well done, Bob. Be thou at peace. Cadet snow roommates best, and most memories are forged among them. I didn't have the opportunity to room with Bob, but I'd like to share 2 remembrances. First, his smile. I can't recall a memory of Bob without his smile. Maybe it's because he had such a great smile and it stuck with you. His was a large, engaging, infectious smile, punctuated with great teeth. Or perhaps it's because he always wore it on occasions least expected, like a bleak winter day. Or maybe it's because his smile entered the room with Bob and stayed well after he left. A smile that said, I'm your friend, and I'll try to make things better. Bob's smile could do that. And it could make things better, even bleak winter days at West Point. Secondly, conversations. I can't recall a conversation with Bob that wasn't positive. Maybe it's because he was so positive, seeing the best in situations and in people. Or maybe it's because Bob offered and helped others in any situation, regardless of what he was doing. Or perhaps it's because Bob genuinely cared for others, how they felt, and lifted down spirits to make them better. Bob could do that. He could make things better. Some souls are gifted that way. We had a series of severe storms with strong winds and hail come through the Dallas-Fort Worth area before, during, and after this Zoom meeting about Bob Ludwig. I hope the call went well. I really didn't have many Bob Ludwig stories to tell, since we did not room together while at West Point. However, I am pretty sure we roomed together at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia for Officer Basic Course. You could not ask for a better roommate. Bob was a fantastic guy. For several months in the fall of 1969, our yearling year, companies E3 and D3 shared a corner of Old South Barracks. Our room of Bob Ludwig, Craig McKee, and Greg Wong faced directly across the Division 3rd floor stairwell from the D3 room of Hud Berry, Bud Blair, and Ken Radizak. In the stereotyped yearling atmosphere which ensued, our mutual nicknames quickly devolved to Hud Bud Rat and Lud Mac Smitty, although for the life of me I cannot remember why or how Greg became Smitty. If memory serves, Hud became an orthopedic surgeon, Bud an Army lawyer, Rat an Army dentist, Lud a senior LDS church official, and Smitty a captain of industry in Hawaii. Joan and I saw Martha and Bob only rarely over subsequent decades, the last contact about 11 years ago upon Bob's selection as president of the under-construction New Jerusalem Mormon Temple in Nauvoo, Illinois. It was a pleasant interlude, impressive in Bob's description of his duties in Nauvoo. Time has passed too fast, and Bob's passing all too soon. We miss him greatly. Rest in peace. I didn't know Bob that well, but I did know he was one of the kindest people I ever met. When you talked to Bob, you got a wonderful smile that came from the heart. And you had a feeling that he would absolutely help you in any way that he could without hesitation. Very giving, very gracious, and a good soul. I'm saddened to know that he has moved on from us. I can't make the Zoom meeting, but I do have a funny story from plebe year. We were at a special inspection in Steve Hume's room, and he was asking sports trivia questions. He asked Bob who Babe Ruth was, and Bob didn't know. Well, Steve went ballistic, and I could not believe Bob didn't know. Later, we all gave Bob some additional instruction on Babe Ruth, just as he gave us additional instruction in electrical engineering. Bob Ludwig as a cadet was an unassuming person and pleasant to be around. He was a hive, serious about studies and willing to help those in need of academic assistance. I can see him saying to a classmate in need, "Sure, I'll help you with that question," while saying to himself, "Sleep is overrated." I did not know Bob that well, and I regret that I did not come to know him well, particularly in light of what I heard from his family at the memorial service. I was very impressed when Bob's children shared about the humility and compassion of their dad. I heard them tell about a time when the family was moving to a new house, and all were cleaning the rooms in the house they were leaving to make it the best that it could be. Their dad made a point of cleaning the kitchen sink, the drain, the garbage disposal, getting rid of all the debris, the grease, the grime that had accumulated. Bob told his children that is what ought to be done out of consideration for the new tenants, to prepare them for a fresh, clean sink, free of grease, food debris, harmful germs, and foul odors. Even if they don't know that we did that for them, we will know. That is the love of a neighbor lived out for his family to see. Bob would also perform routine household chores, such as scrubbing the kitchen floor, as a way of taking that burden away from Martha. The kids witnessed him doing this frequently over the years, and even during the final days of his life, as he was struggling with the painful cancer treatments, Bob was a humble servant. As I reflect on memories from Bob's family, I am grateful that I knew him, even though it was not as well as I should have. I feel privileged to have even observed him from a distance over the 4 years. I think that in retrospect, his character formation took him to the point in life of being an example by showing consideration for others, including those he has not even met. Bob Ludwig has had an impact on the world by making it a better place and pointing the way with a life well lived. May it be said, well done, Bob. Be thou at peace. Cadets know roommates best, and most memories are forged among them. I didn't have the opportunity to room with Bob, but I'd like to share 2 remembrances. First, his smile. I can't recall a memory of Bob without his smile. Maybe it's because he had such a great smile and it stuck with you. His was a large, engaging, infectious smile, punctuated with great teeth. Or perhaps it's because he always wore it on occasions least expected, like a bleak winter day. Or maybe it's because his smile entered the room with Bob and stayed well after he left. A smile that said, "I'm your friend, and I'll try to make things better." Bob's smile could do that, and it could make things better, even bleak winter days at West Point. Secondly, conversations. I can't recall a conversation with Bob that wasn't positive. Maybe it's because he was so positive, seeing the best in situations and in people. Or maybe it's because Bob offered and helped others in any situation, regardless of what he was doing. Or perhaps it's because Bob genuinely cared for others, how they felt, and lifted down spirits to make them better. Bob could do that. He could make things better. Some souls are gifted that way. We had a series of severe storms with strong winds and hail come through the Dallas-Fort Worth area before, during, and after this Zoom meeting about Bob Ludwig. I hope the call went well. I really didn't have many Bob Ludwig stories to tell since we did not room together while at West Point. However, I am pretty sure we roomed together at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia for Officer Basic Course. You could not ask for a better roommate. Bob was a fantastic guy. For several months in the fall of 1969, our yearling year, companies E3 and D3 shared a corner of Old South Barracks. Our room of Bob Ludwig, Craig McKee, and Greg Wong faced directly across the Division 3rd floor stairwell from the D3 room of Hud Berry, Bud Blair, and Ken Radizak. In the stereotype yearling atmosphere which ensued, our mutual nicknames quickly devolved to Hud Bud Rat and Lud Mac Smitty, although for the life of me I cannot remember why or how Greg became Smitty. If memory serves, Hud became an orthopedic surgeon, Bud an Army lawyer, Rat an Army dentist, Lud a senior LDS church official, and Smitty a captain of industry in Hawaii. Joan and I saw Martha and Bob only rarely over subsequent decades, the last contact about 11 years ago upon Bob's selection as president of the under-construction New Jerusalem Mormon Temple in Nauvoo, Illinois. It was a pleasant interlude, impressive in Bob's description of his duties in Nauvoo. Time has passed too fast, and Bob's passing all too soon. We miss him greatly. Rest in peace.